Nice. Good to see our whole lower school. Actually, we're missing a grade. Who can tell me what grade we're missing just by looking around? I like that you're getting familiar with all being together again in Bell Hall. Michaela, who are we missing? Third grade. I bet you know why, because your sister's in third grade. Where are they off to, Michaela? They are. They're off to Crystal Cave. Aren't they lucky on such a beautiful day to be going to Crystal Cave? I'm so glad we're back to field trips, and I know all the grades will be enjoying a little field trip this spring, so really exciting stuff. Do you guys like field trips? Of course you do. Who said I love them? Yes, me too, Alec. They're really fun. So, guys, tomorrow, oh my gosh, Thomas, you're all ready for tomorrow. Thomas has this great green Lucky Charms shirt on because tomorrow is what, everybody? St. Patrick's Day, yes, so it's drop the dress code, wear orange, right? No? Oh, sorry, yes, green, wear your green in celebration of St. Patrick's Day. We'll have a fun day tomorrow because who will be arriving, perhaps? You think, well, okay, so first grade, what did you bring to school today? Leprechaun traps. So, guys, everybody who's ever created a leprechaun trap, including you 8th graders, raise your hand. Yeah, you did, way back when. So Mrs. Knaus and I were trying to figure out how long this tradition has been part of Montgomery School. Mrs. Shellhammer, so your daughter, Emma, is how old now? 27. She had to think about it. She's 27. Oh, we just can't, I can't believe that either because I was here when Emma was a little person. Did she do a leprechaun trap? And they get it out every year. So that was over 25 years ago. Okay, so Mrs. Knaus, we were thinking maybe 20 years because Mrs. Knaus remembered her oldest daughter, who's 24 now, I can't believe this, made a leprechaun trap. My daughter, who's 17, made a leprechaun trap, and we also still get hers out in hopes of, just it's so fun to remember the leprechaun trap. So first graders, these are special items that you have created that your parents will hold on to and get out every year. And do you think you're going to catch one this year? Okay. I really hope so. Who knows, right? Yeah, we don't know. But those sneaky leprechauns, I think kindergarten, what did you think happened in the dining room yesterday? Some of you told me that you thought the leprechauns were behind something happening. Yeah, Everett, remember? I think it was you who told me. The lights were blinking on and off, and no one was touching the light switch, right, Miss Janney? No. Ben, what? Mrs. Hoover, is she here? The lights were flickering in your classroom? Is that true, Mrs. Hoover? Were the lights flickering in your classroom yesterday? So I think the leprechauns have arrived a little early. So I'm really glad you brought your traps, and tomorrow we will see if we caught any little leprechauns. What did you have to say, Claire? The lights flicked in your classroom? Wow. Parker, is that what you were going to say too? Yeah. Daniel, is that what you were going to share? Okay. Somewhere in this area, because is there a little bit of a mess over there that you've eyed that maybe the leprechauns are behind? We could blame the leprechauns on a lot, right? Because, yeah, I think so. All right, so I'll spy around here after chapel and see what I found. I will keep you posted. Mackenzie? Did I just give something away, maybe? Mackenzie asked, what if the leprechauns are listening and hear me talking about the leprechaun traps? So, okay, so how do I fix this? So how about, I'll just say, leprechauns, come and find some gold that might be lying around in Bell Hall. Is that better, Mackenzie? Okay. All right, so very exciting week at Montgomery School for sure. I know you'll be talking about this in your classrooms. I wanted to bring up our special friend, Mr. Roger Regan, head of the middle school. He's going to be introducing a couple of guests that we have today and our very special chapel speaker. So welcome to Mr. Roger Regan.
Thank you, Ms. Murata. Good morning, lower school and 8th grade. All right, how we all missed having this whole group here. I was just blown away by your, how well you sang the hymn and said the Pledge of Allegiance, your enthusiasm, and it's just so infectious. So thank you for doing that. I have a few announcements that are more specific to middle school, but I'm going to take this opportunity to do that. First is, today and Friday, middle school students will have their study hall here in Bell Hall. So at 2:30 after your last period class, gather all your belongings, your book bags and everything, and come to Bell Hall. This is where you will have your study hall, so make sure you come prepared, do your homework, study for your upcoming assessments, because you're going to be dismissed from here. You won't be returning to advisory. And tomorrow, middle school will have a special bake sale. The Friday bake sale has been moved up to Thursday, so it's going to be St. Patrick's Day bake sale, so that'll take place tomorrow. And electives will also take place tomorrow during study hall. All right, so those are some of the changes in this week's schedule. Are there any other announcements? Yes, Mishika? You know, Ms. Murata is the expert on leprechauns. I know nothing about leprechauns, right? So that's a great question for Ms. Murata. All right? Wonderful. All right. I love your energy, guys. I just can't. All right, so before I bring up our 8th grade chapel speaker today, and you guys are in for a treat. I know this year, you've never attended an 8th grade chapel, and you're in for a treat today. I'm going to introduce the special speaker in a minute, but before I do that, I have the honor of introducing a very special guest this morning. As many of you know, Montgomery School is engaged in the process of finding the next middle school head for next year. And we've had many interested applicants for the role. And after initial interviews, we've narrowed down the pool to 4 finalists. And today, Mr. Vandegrift is here with us, and he's going to be meeting with the community and talking about his interest in the position. And as part of his visit, we've asked him to address you and share a few thoughts with all of us on our school's this year's theme of connection. And after chapel, Mr. Vandegrift will meet with parents in the dining room to continue the conversation. So please help me in welcoming Mr. Vandegrift to the stage.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. So my name is Allen Vandegrift, and my students and my teacher friends call me Mr. V, because sometimes students have trouble pronouncing my name. So Mr. V does well for me. So today I was asked to share a little bit about connection, which is your theme. And to me, when I think about connection, I think about 2 things. I think about our connections with ourselves, our passions, our talents, our interests, and then I think about our connections with other people. If you look around this room, it's filled with other people. And one of the most powerful ways that I believe we can connect with each other is by telling our stories. So I'm going to tell my story in about 5 minutes, try to do it quickly, but to give you a little insight into who I am. So, a little bit hard to see. This is me in middle school. Help me out here. This picture with the basketball jersey is me in 6th grade. The picture to the right is me in 8th grade. Can anyone tell me what is different about me in 6th grade to 8th grade? Go ahead.
Your hair is different in 8th grade.
My hair grew about 12 inches. I had a huge, huge afro. All right, and that's something that I love, that I connected with. So, my story, the picture on the top left is my family. I think it's important to talk about family and talk about who we are and where we come from. So I was adopted. I have 2 wonderful parents. One is a college professor and one is a Methodist minister. And they taught me from a very, very young age that we should have 2 purposes in life. One purpose is giving back to society, and then the second is being kind. And that is something that I've held with me throughout my whole life. So in middle school, I loved middle school. I loved school. As you can see, I loved basketball. I was goofy, obviously with my hair. But there was one thing that I really connected with in middle school, and that was art. I loved everything. Basketball, I skateboarded, I played lacrosse. But there was something about art that I connected deeply with. Here's a couple pictures of my work, and I began to connect with art probably in 8th grade. Has anyone been to Yellow Springs Art Center? A couple of us? So I've done some work there, and I throw on the pottery wheel. So with my art, there's something about the creative process that I love. And I always wanted to come back to what my parents said, which was, we have a purpose of giving back to society in our family. So what I have dedicated my life to doing is being a teacher, and I am first and foremost a visual arts teacher. So I just wanted to show you some of my work. There's me at Yellow Springs, and there's a piece where I threw and then carved. And I wanted to show you a few of my student pieces, and I'll get to your question in a minute. So, I believe in the classroom, something that I connect with deeply is presenting students with independence and presenting them with challenges that they can overcome, presenting them with a skill that then they can apply. And when I look around this room, we have sgraffito, we have some op art, we have some animal paintings. I love this space. So it seems like the same thing that I try to do in my classroom happens here. Let's take a break. Do you want to ask your question? Go ahead. That's a good question. She said, if I loved art so much, why didn't I become an art teacher? I think we call it visual arts at Penn Charter, so I am an art teacher as well. And I'm also the assistant principal at Penn Charter. So I have 2 different roles. That's a good question. Thank you. So lastly, I want to talk a little bit about what I connect with and I try to help my students connect with outside of school. This is a picture of a ski trip that we just took that students planned. I love providing students with opportunities to plan activities that they would like to participate in. And if there's any parents or caretakers, if you go down the terrain park with 6th grade students, I suggest not going off the jumps. I was trying to relive the glory days and it did not end well. Second, the top left is a picture of service. I love service, and this is a picture where every single student in our middle school each year raises money in creative ways to connect with our community partners, to provide them with toys and gifts for the holidays. And that is one of my favorite times of the year, is that when we all engage in that service project. And then lastly, the picture on the left is we have a play day every year where 8th graders lead younger students. Might be similar to your Greek and Roman games, I'm not sure, that are coming up. But I love that day to see 8th graders lead the rest of our school in fun games. And then I'm going to end with this. My story. Today, I'm a father. I have a young toddler who keeps us very busy. His name's Asher. You can see him on the right. I'm a husband. I care deeply about my wife. She's also an educator. Again, that purpose and connection of giving back to society is something that's very important to us in our family. And the last picture on the right is my son throwing his first lacrosse ball. So I also do a lot of coaching, basketball and lacrosse outside of school. So I just wanted to share that not only am I a teacher, but I like to connect with students outside in coaching. So that is a little bit of my story. And I want to say, if I could leave one message with the group, is every single person in this room has a special story, has special talents, and I encourage all of you to share your story, because we all have something to offer everyone in this space. So thank you. And I'll questions or? Okay, good. Thank you.
Got it. All right. Thank you, Mr. V, and great to have you here on campus. Hope you have a wonderful visit. For those of you who are new to an 8th grade chapel, what is 8th grade chapel? And some of you may already want to start thinking about this. No, I'm kidding. So every 8th grade student is asked to do a chapel. Right, so every single one of them have either had a chance to come up here on stage and deliver a talk that is really meaningful to them, or there are some who are still yet to do, and you are going to hear from one of our 8th grade students, and I'm going to introduce Emerson in just a second. So Emerson came to Montgomery School in 8th grade. You know, she's one of those students she came to us years ago, but in some ways, it also seems like she's been here for a long time. And here are some of the things that her teachers have said about her. Emerson is quiet, but diligent and thorough. She's inquisitive about her academics. She is very attentive in class and is enthusiastic about her learning. She is always polite, kind, and very considerate to those around her, her teachers, friends, and classmates alike. She is remarkably consistent in bringing positivity, curiosity, and humor to the classroom. And I agree with every single one of these things. And this morning, it is my joy and privilege to introduce to you Emerson Nolte. Please give a round of applause.
Thank you, Mr. Regan, for that kind introduction. Good morning, students, parents, and faculty. My name is Emerson Nolte, and today I'm going to be talking about the life lessons I've learned from being an equestrian. For the last 4 years, I've been fortunate to be able to train, ride, and compete with horses. Competing with horses, also known as equestrian sports, is challenging since both the horse and rider have to work together as a team to successfully compete. Horses have a mind of their own and sometimes would rather not do the things that the rider is asking them to do. Now, when most people think of equestrian sports, they think of horse jumping. And while horse jumping is a big part of equestrian sports, there are dozens of different types of equestrian sports. I compete in 3 of these types: hunters, jumpers, and equitation. Jumpers are the easiest to understand because it's pretty straightforward. In jumpers, the horse and rider strive to get over the jumps and as quickly as they can without knocking over any of the rails. In jumper competitions, the rider receives faults when you are too slow or when you knock down the rails. A second equestrian event I compete in is called hunters. Hunter competitions are judged on the appearance and form of the horse. It's the rider's job to make the horse move smoothly through the course. The third type of equestrian competition, equitation, is a combination of both hunters and jumpers. In equitation, it's the rider who's judged, and the rider's judged on their horsemanship skills to guide both rider and horse through a challenging jump course. These 3 types of equestrian sports have taught me valuable skills that I use in my everyday life. These skills are perseverance, responsibility, compassion, time management, critical thinking, and coachability. The first life lesson I've learned is perseverance. When riding a 1,200-pound animal with mind and emotions of their own, things don't always go well. It has been said that horseback riding is the only sport where your equipment can decide not to cooperate with you. Finding a balance between guiding the horse and letting the horse find its own groove takes training, experience, and a bit of luck. Even the most careful riders will find themselves thrown to the dirt from an abrupt stop or miscommunication. The common phrase, "get back on that horse," is quite literal when you're involved in equestrian sports. Over the past 4 years, I've been thrown from my horse numerous times. I've been bruised and bloody, but I've always gotten back on the horse, and it's been very rewarding. In life outside of horses, the lessons I've learned around perseverance paid off for me when I started at Montgomery School a month after the school year started. My first few test scores were not as great, as I struggled to catch up on the curriculum that my classmates had started earlier this year. I had to work extra hard and get back on that horse after those first few tests, but it was worth the extra effort when I finished my first semester on the honor roll. The perseverance I learned through equestrian sports carried through to my success in school. The second life lesson I've learned is responsibility. Winston Churchill once said, "The price of greatness is responsibility." Equestrian sports have been a great source for learning responsibility. Taking care of my horse requires a lot of time and effort. I estimate that for every 30 minutes I ride my horse, I spend 2 hours taking care of him. A horse is basically an athlete who can't take care of themselves. Therefore, every day my horse requires extensive grooming, which consists of brushing, bathing, and clipping. Caring for a horse is a huge responsibility and provided me the opportunity to develop my sense of responsibility. Outside of riding, I embraced my sense of responsibility when taking my first job. I work at the barn, and my responsibilities include feeding and bringing the horses in from the field. I also have to clean the stalls and sweep the aisles. Most importantly, I'm trusted to make sure the horses are not sick or hurt. I'm proud to say that I never missed a scheduled work assignment, and I've become a reliable and trusted part-time employee. The third life lesson I've learned is compassion. The Dalai Lama described the importance of compassion by saying, "Compassion and tolerance are not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength." Having compassion is a significant factor of horseback riding. Equestrians need to have compassion towards their horse, other riders, and themselves. It is very important to have compassion towards your horse. If you're not careful, you can ask too much of your horse, which can cause mental stress and physical injury. The rider should be able to tell when the horse is tired and needs a break. For example, when I was in Florida and I had shown my horse all week, I understood that he was worn out and decided that it'd be best if I gave him the last few days off. In addition to your horse, it's important to show compassion to other riders and be a good teammate. Horseback riding can be frustrating at times, and it's important to show other riders you're competing against. If you happen to show against someone you know, you should always let them know that they did their best. You should also reassure them if they have a bad day. Lastly, you should always have compassion towards yourself. The rider needs to understand that not every day is perfect and reward progress towards even the small goals. You should not be hard on or mad at yourself and realize when your limits are met. Equestrians always strive for progress and understand that you're not always perfect. Compassion is an essential trait of an equestrian. The compassion I learned riding horses has helped me outside of equestrian sports in many ways. One way is being compassionate towards my friends and family and being aware of when they need a little additional help. For example, a couple of weeks ago, my horse trainer was a little overwhelmed, so I helped her one afternoon schedule appointments and send messages to her clients. It feels good to show compassion and help others in their times of need. The fourth life lesson I've learned is time management. Ben Franklin once said, "Never leave till tomorrow that which you can do today." Time management is a very important aspect of horseback riding because being an equestrian comes with many responsibilities and requires a significant investment of time. My time spent on my horse is actually a small fraction of the time I spend grooming, feeding, and cleaning up after my horse. On a typical day, I'll spend 45 minutes riding my horse, training for my next event. That same day, I'll spend 2 to 3 hours caring for my horse and working around the barn. Juggling equestrian sports with my responsibilities has taught me the importance of time management. For example, when I traveled to Florida in February for a horse show, I had to use my time wisely and manage my schedule with competing and doing schoolwork. I also had to determine how much time I would need for show prep in the morning. I had to be sure that I would arrive at the show with enough time to bathe my horse and warm him up before it was my time to compete. Lastly, time management is essential in the jumper ring in order to prevent time faults. A rider receives faults if they knock over a rail in a jump or receive a time slower than the time allowed. In jumpers, I need to have a quick, consistent pace and accurate track to the jumps in order to clear the jumps and stay in the time allowed. Keeping up with my schoolwork and riding in Florida, managing my time in the mornings on show days, and having a good track and pace in the jumper ring are important time management skills to have as an equestrian. Outside of horses, the time management skills I've developed help me in everyday life. Every day I leverage the time management skills I've developed to maintain a good schedule at school, my after-school activities, my homework, and my chores at home. I've learned to make a list of the priorities for my day and allow time in the day to complete these priorities. Being an equestrian has taught me critical thinking. Critical thinking applies to my safety when riding horses. Having the correct pace and track to the jump ensures that the rider can find the best spot to take off to the jump. If I mess up my track, it can make me get a bad distance when jumping a line. I need to make sure I stay straight in between the jumps so my horse is not out of stride in between. Choosing a good distance is important because it is easier for the horse and safer for the rider. In the hunter ring, having a consistent pace and track develops the best jump from the horse. The judge is looking for a horse that jumps over the jumps nicely with a smooth, consistent pace through the course. Equitation combines critical factors of appearance in more challenging tracks in order to prove to the judge that the rider can handle the horse well. I have to adjust my thinking and change my approach depending on if I'm showing the hunters, jumpers, or equitation. Critical thinking is an important life skill for me to develop. In fact, a survey of employers identified critical thinking as the second most important trait in a successful employee. When riding horses, an important trait to have is coachability. Coachability is defined as the willingness to accept feedback and the ability to improve. Michael Jordan, perhaps the greatest professional basketball player of all time, once said, "My best skill was that I was coachable. I was a sponge and aggressive to learn." There's a lot to learn in equestrian sports, and as a rider, it is important to be coachable in order to learn and improve. It's also important to maintain a positive attitude, which is also an aspect of coachability. This is especially important in equestrian sports because my horse can sense and respond to my emotional state. If I show frustration, my horse can also become frustrated. An example of when I display coachability is during lessons. In lessons, I take advice and listen to my trainer. By doing this, I am capable of improving my riding skills. Another example of being coachable is at shows. At competitions, it is important to learn how and why someone pinned higher than you in a class without taking offense. This helps me learn what to do better next time. Lastly, learning and listening to your horse is an important factor in horseback riding. For example, if I give my horse the wrong cue and they respond in a different way than what you asked them, I need to take responsibility for doing something wrong and learn from my mistakes. In this sense, coachability is an important component of my character, and character is an important part of the high school and college selection process. A 2019 National College Student Athlete Study of college coaches asked them to rank the potential recruits on 4 attributes: athletic ability, academics, character, and geographic location. The result? 35% of college coaches rated character as the most important trait, well above the 23 who rated athletic ability as a top attribute. As I look forward to my high school and then to college, I'll continue to work on building my coachability and make it a character strength. On the slide, you see a picture of my trainer and myself, and I'm thankful to have such a good coach in my equestrian life. In conclusion, being an equestrian is such an important part of my life. I feel really fortunate to be able to spend time with horses and working to improve my skills as an equestrian. All of these aspects horseback riding has taught me are important traits that can lead to my success in life. Thank you for listening, and thank you Mr. Hutchison, Mr. Rajaregam, and Mr. Coco for all your help.
Eighth grade students may proceed to the bell for the bell ringing. And parents, if you are here for your meeting with Mr. Vandegrift, that will take place in the dining room soon after chapel. Have a great day.